AI art needs to stop, and here's why. We need to talk about AI art, guys. Believe me, I don't want to talk about this subject. I'm in the middle of production of my short film, but this is one of those topics that I feel so strongly about that I feel like I have to say something. I have to do something to help. I'm witnessing an entire industry get taken advantage of here. I'm an animator, so why should I care about the problems which concept artists and illustrators are facing right now? Well, I consider them to be like my close neighbors. On the left is me in my little animation house, and then I'm looking over the fence at my neighbor in digital art space, and I'm just seeing that there are people at his house with flamethrowers just setting the whole thing ablaze. The first thing I think is that's not fair. And the second thing I think is how long will it take until those flames reach my house and burn that house down as well? So we're all neighbors in this, like the creative space. These things can spread, and they will spread because there's profit involved. So I feel like I need to say something about it right now before the damage gets even worse, and just do what I can so I can sleep peacefully at night. I'm not making the argument that AI generated images have nothing valuable to offer, that AI generated images never look beautiful or thought-provoking, that AI is an inherently evil or bad thing, research of AI cannot lead to improvement in quality of life, or that AI cannot potentially increase the prosperity for all people, potentially, or that AI is simple and building an AI is easy. I'm not trying to trivialize what AI developers have done here, and this is not an existential debate on the use case of AI either. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves when we talk about those existential problems. We will try instead in this presentation to focus on the actual underlying issue with AI image generators. So welcome to the greatest data and intellectual property theft ever conceived. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. There are other videos that explain the technology very well if you're completely new to this, but I will explain the theft. The crux of the issue here. Stability AI funds a non-profit AI research project. Now, the only reason that Lion 5B was allowed to be made is because they did so under the banner of non-profit research project. Then this commercial AI is trained on a massive online data set without permission of the image owners. Lion 5B stands for 5 billion. It's actually 5.6 billion images, and contained within that is millions at least, probably billions of copyrighted images and private images. Stability AI wastes no time in this. They quickly release these so-called tools that exploit the artist they used to train it. And they even have a feature where you can name artists. You can use an artist's name as kind of like a style filter. The artist's images are being directly used to replace them. They also waste no time in swiftly introducing premium tier options for massive profit and valuations. Oh, believe me, they are profiting. They are making a mint out of this. And millions upon millions is lost in artist revenue. And where do you think that artist revenue is going? It's going to these small AI companies, a few hundred staff. It's going into their pockets and into their valuations. And it's coming from the art industry. And this is happening daily. I'm talking about millions daily that's being sucked away from the artists.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up!
And I'm going to get a little bit more into it. I'm going to show you more evidence for this, just in case you are watching this and you are on the fence about the whole issue and you're saying, oh, well, you know, both sides have good points. One side is clearly in the wrong here. These are the big players, right? We've got Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion. And Stability AI is one of the biggest sort of players behind the scenes that are pulling the strings with this. Also called OpenAI. I don't know if this was intentional, but they've kind of splintered off into like Stability AI, OpenAI, Stable Diffusion. It's kind of confusing. One of the things that's kind of linking them is the massive data sets that they've been using. The biggest one being Lion 5B. Their biggest innovation was finding a legal loophole which allowed them to steal from all artists, past and present. I don't even think it's a loophole here after doing all the research. I think they legally cannot do this. They should not be able to do this. I think when this is examined closer, I think it will be found that they have been breaking the law, EU law and US law. Even if it is a loophole, it's a very immoral loophole. I think they need to roll back these models. The damage to artists' lives, clients and industries and virtual spaces has been substantial, and it's only just begun. We're starting to feel it. Stealing from one group, selling to another group, and making a ton of money in the process. You have this one group here, the artists, right? Now, the artists are copyright owners, not because of any kind of endowment that they have, right? But because of their contribution. When you create an original image, you get the copyright by default because you have contributed something new to society. Typically, artists have a strong work ethic, especially when you get to the top echelon of artists, people like Craig Mullins, people like James Gurney, James Jean as an illustrator. Like, these people are in the top echelon of art, not because of some kind of endowment, but because they worked really hard to get there. They have a respect for the medium. They have artistic opinions and creative agencies. Human digital artists have been the ones driving innovation for centuries, and they're the ones driving it now as well. And they want basic boundaries to be respected. AI image generators, the ones that I named in the previous slide, they take from this group and they sell to this group, which is the prompters, right? Notice how I didn't say give. They word it a lot of the time as give. They're not giving, they're selling to the prompters. Prompters have no copyright ownership because they haven't contributed anything. Sometimes you have a crossover, it's rare, but sometimes you have artists that are also become prompters. And I think that they're a very confused group of people. Typically, the prompter has no work ethic, morally colorblind. They have to be to ignore this problem, or they are just ignorant. I could see that some people just haven't looked into it very much, and they see this tool and they say, oh, it's a cool tool, right? I can use it. Unformed artistic opinions a lot of the time. And here's an interesting point I just added on here. They are being used by AI. Prompters are being used by AI to improve the AI. They think they're using this tool. The tool is using them. AI is using them. And they have a false sense of entitlement. It's something that I will get into later with the this new group of people that's popped up that I call the AI bro. Prompters, you might call them, or AI apologists, I sometimes call them. But here I've put them under prompter. Now, we have a word for this. When an entity comes along, they take from one group and they sell to another group. And that word is exploitation. This is exploitation of an industry. And of course, AI prompters, the people using AI, of course they love this technology. They have nothing to lose in this. They are not the ones being robbed. They're the ones getting all the free samples of these AI image generators, right? And they're getting to skip a lot of the more difficult steps, the time-consuming steps like rendering, drawing, sketching, having an idea, taking credit for the generated idea spat out by the AI, using other people's hard work for free. I'm going to keep on circling back to that, guys, because that is the crux of the issue here. It's not just me that thinks this. This is the problem according to ChatGPT. Yanni Putsker actually put in the question and got OpenAI's own chatbot system to talk about this. And ChatGPT appears to agree with what I'm saying, right? The chatbot says it's important to obtain their consent before proceeding. If you are considering using an artist's images in this way, it's important to respect their rights and ensure that you have obtained the necessary permission before proceeding. Here's another one, not leading it down anyway, because Yanni said some people believe they are not really using the pictures, but merely showing them to AI to learn. So being devil's advocate here, ChatGPT disagrees and says this may have some consequences for artists who created the image. For example, if an AI system is being trained on an artist's images to generate similar images or hybrids, this could potentially lead to the creation of new works that are based on artists' original images. These new works may be produced and distributed without the artist's permission or compensation. It is therefore important to obtain the artist's permission, yes, before using their images in this way. Their own chatbot disagrees with them and agrees with me. Let's say we have these 4 groups here. Like let's see what everyone's thinking. How are people being deceived? So you got the prompters. Prompters can think that what they're getting is super original when it's actually not. And they've just arrived on the art scene and they don't know a lot of artists. They don't notice when something is a ripoff of a human artist. Of course, they do know some artists, some of the more mainstream artists they've heard of. They try to replicate using the AI. They put in the name of those artists and they've noticed that that kind of bumps up the quality of the results that they can get, right? Makes sense. Professional artist that's dedicated their lives to it, you put in his name, the AI uses that portfolio as a data set and it gets better results. The AI can do this very well as it can copy and preserve images one-to-one with no error. AI devs, developers, right? They confess that they literally don't know what's going on in their own AI software. So they feign ignorance. They say, well, it's not up to me, right? The AI is going to do whatever it wants. They try to use that as a way to hide from their responsibility. But they are well aware of all the copyright and sensitive data that they laundered. Very intentional in that. AI is using the data at its disposal to make the user very happy. Right, that's its goal. The goal is just to do the best job it can, right? It's using its data crunching ability to narrow down its sources to only professional art and photography because that gets it better results from people. It gets it better feedback. Look, it's noticing what the prompters are asking for. And it's also noticing the images that are selected in that multiple choice interface at the end. So over time, it uses the user feedback to narrow down the data set to only beautiful professional grade images. The copyright images of the data set are doing all of the heavy lifting in these AI generated images. That makes sense, right? So when people say, well, you know, it's just one image in a sea of 5 billion. Well, I'm pretty sure that Craig Mullins, Greg Rakowski, one of these professional artists, their artwork is getting used way, way more. People calling them out by name. Human artists can clearly see their own artwork and the artwork of their peers being plagiarized and misused. Human artists are the most able to recognize what the AI is doing because of their education and research into visual arts. And yet they are constantly being dismissed. You can listen to Emad Mostak, the CEO of Stability AI, go through a full interview where he sits down, talks about the technology. He doesn't mention artists once. He never brings up artists. I will be making memes throughout this video. It's such a dark topic. It's such a dark period of time for artists that I couldn't actually get through making this without making a few memes. Hopefully it will make this easier to digest. So the law, I've told you they're kind of breaking the law. The law is slow to catch up. You know, if we think of progress, societal progress as going from left to right, we've got morality and ethics kind of leading the way and law is just trailing behind trying to catch up, right? That makes sense given the bureaucracy and the amount of time that comes along with bureaucracy. Here's where AI art is. It's nestled neatly between, this highly unethical AI art, definitely not keeping up with morality and ethics. For the time being, it is ahead of the law. It hasn't brought anyone to trial. It hasn't called anyone into question. There you have it. We must take action though, right? We cannot just sit by on the sidelines, okay, and watch them get away with this. I won't do it. My soul, my spirit doesn't allow it. So we've got 3 things here: legal recourse, public awareness, and holding social media accountable. I'm going to go into this. This is not just whinging and us coming together to commiserate and to mourn the loss of our medium. No, we've got things we need to do. This is our to-do list, guys. Number 1, legal recourse. I'm going to link you in the description. You can visit it at the end if you don't want this video to be interrupted. These are 2 fundraisers. One's called Protecting Artists from AI Technologies. The other one, similar name, Help Protect Our Art and Data from AI Companies. The top one is in the US. It's closer to being funded. It has a larger funding goal and it has more eyes on it, has more publicity. a smaller one in the EU. I suggest you read all the information that's on these pages and donate to whichever one you want. I've already donated to the Protecting Artists from AI Technologies by the Concept Art Association. This is for the American one, so it's in dollars. The other fundraiser I suggest, which is Help Protect Our Art and Data from AI Companies, an Italian comic book association. They are going to bring this to Brussels, to the EU courts in Brussels, and basically represent artists. I think it's a really good cause. So I'm going to show you how to donate, and I'm also going to demonstrate it for you. So click donate now, very simple. Enter your donation. So I have read all of the information about this, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and I've decided to put €1,000 into this. I think it's a very worthwhile cause. So let's put that in. I put the tip amount to 0. I'm going to use PayPal for it. I don't think you need to select a team member there. I will do this part off screen for security, and we see it loading. Thank you for your donation. Receipt has been sent to my email. Great. Okay, and I'm going to copy the link, and I'm going to put that in the description of this video for you to check out, to read. This is good. Okay, I'm going to post the comment. Maybe I'll copy it first. I donated to both of them, but I donated more to the EU campaign because they are further away from their funding goal, and they have less publicity at this point. The US and the EU are the two legal hotspots in the world where I think this issue needs to be brought to the highest powers. It needs to be addressed. Okay, public awareness. We need to inform the public, just ordinary everyday people, that AI image generators in their current state are highly unethical. People need to know that. Not everyone does. In fact, very few people are aware of that. They see it as being harmless, right? Image generators are highly unethical, like the companies behind them, but it's also using and consuming art from image generators is problematic. It is unethical in a similar way where you wouldn't buy and use trainers that you know had been made in a sweatshop with child labor, right? We need to get better at holding our ground in stupid arguments with AI bros and prompters, because I see them winning sometimes using these just very shallow tactics. They manage to convince people. We need to win that war because, guys, morality and ethics is on our side for this. Number 3, we need to make irresponsible AI art a taboo. That's more of a general one. We need to make a fuss when artists are exploited like this. We need to speak up. First of all, I would recommend that we stop using these weak arguments that I find. I think you know the ones. These arguments that are like drawing attention to the artifacting, AI can't even draw hands, AI images all look bad. You see, these are really easy arguments to undo, to unravel. If you say it can't even draw hands, well, what are you going to say when it improves, when it actually is able to draw hands? AI images all look bad. Okay, then why do you care if it's using stolen data sets? Of course, the problem is that AI images do look good. And they look good because they are using stolen artwork. I know, let's just like appreciate them for a moment here. Let's pay our tributes to these memes. They are funny. We're gonna have to stop using them. I told you that the morality is on our side, right? So what we find a lot of the time is that like pro AI rhetoric with these AI apologists and these AI bros, they can't actually use these with a straight face. Like they can't tell you with a straight face that it's morally defensible or that it helps the artist community or that people love AI art. Like the public have been calling out for AI art. We need AI art. It's the thing that we need. Like no one asked for this. No one needed it. Artists love this tool. Artists have been just begging for AI art as a tool that they can use and that it removes the tedious task of creative work. Dude, we love making things. Everyone loves making things. Removing the creative part of image making to where it's just like a multiple choice selection screen, you can't tell me that that's better. So they can't use these. So they resort to these weaker arguments, right? They take refuge in these kind of nihilistic arguments. You know, they'll tell you it's not technically illegal. And they'll tell you that it's a cruel world and you've just got to keep up. You know, they resort to nihilism. They say it's pointless to resist technological progress. And there are criticisms to all of these points. I will get into them in more depth in the upcoming slides. When they can't win a fair argument, what we found is they start gaslighting. They start questioning your sanity. They start questioning your emotional stability. You're in the denial stage of grief. Oh, I just love it when someone tells me that, when I'm making clear, coherent points and they're not, and then they turn around and tell me that I'm in the denial stage of grief. Or you're fighting against technology advancement. You're a Luddite. You're against remix culture. You hate freedom of expression. This is the worst one. You're depriving the masses of a creative outlet. And this is actually one that was used by the CEO of Stability AI, Emad Mostak, the hedge fund boss who just got $101 million in venture capital money for his AI company, which is built on stolen artwork, and says that artists who oppose him are like aristocrats who try to keep poor people from learning to read. Seriously. And opponents are arguing for skill segregation. Skill segregation, for real. This is the type of guy who is going to act like a pencil and paper don't exist, and that a pencil and paper cost you $100,000 to obtain. He goes on to say they'd rather keep a monopoly on visual communication. Dude, for you to characterize digital artists as ruling class bourgeoisie aristocrats who are hoarding their abilities, depriving it from the masses. We're not talking about food here, the French Revolution, let them eat cake type thing. These are artists' portfolios. This is an artist's skill set, which he uses to earn a living. It costs the artist a mountain of time, effort, and determination to build up to a portfolio that good. It's not yours to take. What an entitled little man baby. A failed artist with no one to blame, with his head stuck in the talent paradigm. Alright, I need to bring my energy down because this subject does get me worked up. What we need to do every time these dirty argument tactics are used is to backtrack the discussion. We need to go back to the central thing. Because what I'm finding, and this happens with artists in artist discussions so much, is that we have this progression. AI art is using stolen data sets. Okay, we start there. That's the important one, guys. The first one. Then we progress to AI images are getting mistaken for human art. And then we progress to what does this mean for the future of artists? Now, it's important to have those existential discussions, but I just don't want us to drop the first point here. AI art is using stolen data sets. That's the important point. We can't forget that, guys, because the reason that AI images are getting mistaken for human art is because they are trained on stolen data sets. We should only have these existential discussions when the issue of artist exploitation is resolved. So forget about these two for now. We've got to take it back to the basics. Let's do some debunking now, because we're still on that topic of raising public awareness, improving our ability to debunk flawed arguments being made. So we start with the gaslighting, I suppose. You're just mad that you have been replaced? No, artists are mad that they are being robbed. We will figure out the existential questions about the future of art later, but for now, don't change the subject of the massive injustice that's happening, which, by the way, is unlike any historical example. They're going to try and bring up analogies of farmers who protested the combine harvester, things of that nature. It's not the same. Theft is not the same here. AI technology isn't hurting anyone. Wrong. Artists and photographers invest thousands of dollars in art education, thousands of dollars in equipment, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in opportunity costs. Artists are being left in debt as a direct result of the profitable theft of their images by image scrapers and image generators. I just want you to see these two case studies here of master artists that were exploited here. Greg Rakowski, his artwork was taken and trained in an AI against his wishes over 93,000 times, and then he was cyberbullied by AI artists. It's just ironic to me that the hardest working artists are the ones that are most targeted for this, the ones who are the most dedicated, who have spent the most decades of their lives. Master Kim Jong-gi's art was fed into an AI model without his family's consent the day after he died. on October the 3rd this year, and was used to create these awful imitations that were in such poor taste. Kim Jong-il prided himself on just doing everything manually, like on analog, pen on paper, right? He wasn't a digital guy to rip his artwork. It's just disgraceful. That's like the artist's perspective, but that's not the only people being wronged by this. We also have clients being scammed.
I've just made 5 gigs on Fiverr. Here's what we're offering. City and landscape concept art, dog portraits, Dungeons and Dragons character and landscape art, heavy metal and rock album covers, anime and furry character art. We're trying everything.
Receiving AI art instead of human-made art, they are being sold fake, custom art that they can't own the copyright to, right? You cannot own the copyright from AI-generated art if there has not been significant editing of that AI-generated image. So you have these prompters and AI bros just looking to make a quick buck. They are lying to clients, telling them that they are hand-painting these images, when in fact they are just prompting them, and then they sell them for a significant commission fee to clients, and the client doesn't own what they're buying. It's a scam. Clients are being scammed, so it's not good for clients. And also, we have celebrities. Celebrities are being targeted with degrading pornographic deepfakes. Here are 3 examples that are being used. Emma Watson, you have Megan Fox and Billie Eilish. I think I'd be safe to assume that this is doing untold psychological damage to these human beings and their families. It's not cool. Not to mention, it's the exploitation of their brands, which costs a lot of time and money for them to build. A celebrity like Emma Watson, she has signed movie deals. She has worked in front of the camera. She has put a lot of investment into things like makeup and hair and clothing. Her entire brand is being taken here without her permission. So it's not just artists. Of course, I am focusing on the artists here, but this is another group of people who is being taken advantage of here. You'll hear people say that AI is just a tool. This is like one of their favorite catchphrases. They'll just post it in the comments without listening to anything that's being said. AI is just a tool that is trying to take heat away from their unethical actions. And it's trying to give prompters undue credit for creating these things. You know, if they say it's a tool, then it's like, oh, I'm using the tool to create an image. When really, the tool is using you, bro. But in this case, the crime was committed in the making of the tool. These tools were trained on stolen data sets. Therefore, the problem is embedded within the tool itself. Using one of these unethical AIs in any capacity is endorsing that the mass exploitation of an entire industry is okay. Multiple industries, actually, as I just established. Also, no, it's a replacement. There's a difference. The target customer for AI, in the majority of cases, is entirely different from the artists who were targeted for the theft. And you actually hear this being said by the developers of these AIs. These so-called tools are designed to rob artists of their visual styles that took them years, sometimes decades to attain, with no permission or royalties going back to the artist. Most of these apps have the feature of targeting specific artists by name to rob their small specific catalogue of work. When talking to artists, the AI apologist will call it the tool. When making the app to consumers, the AI developer will give an entirely different story, telling you of a mystical computer mind that just fathoms up art from scratch without any help or talent needed. I want to actually show you an example of what I just said, where they're targeting specific artists. There's a small community, I suppose you could call it, of people who are developing an AI to specifically try to emulate the style and brand of Sam Does Arts. You can see communities of prompters going after specific artists. I'm going to get back to Sam Does Arts later because he's a great example for how individual artists are being targeted and are being exploited for their portfolios beyond a shadow of a doubt. And they're being named. They're literally not even trying to hide the name of the person they're plagiarizing. Don't stand in the way of technological progress, bro. This is another one that I've heard as a retort. Don't stand in the way of technology. This is the very, very juvenile assumption that new tech equals good in all situations. So does that mean you're down with chemical weapons, surveillance states, eugenics? You see, new tech doesn't automatically equal good. We have to question new technology. We have to be careful and responsible. Are you just going to blindly adopt new tech without questioning if it's safe and ethical? That's very irresponsible. False equivalence. So this is usually where AI apologists go to hide. They hide with the false equivalence. I think among all of the debunking, this is the most popular one for AI bros. They will try to tell you that the creative process is the same for artists as it is for AI. No, it is not. This opinion is so shallow, it could only be held by someone who has not spent significant time making art. I'm sorry, artists and AI have entirely different processes to get to where they are. The AIs work backwards from a data set. They do what they're told. They're 100% obedient. They cannot innovate as a result of that. They have this very dangerous, damaging, unlimited output, which can harm our virtual spaces. It copies and remembers perfectly, which artists can't. Artists have these limitations put in, which are a good thing. It works backwards from the finished results. Artists work forwards. Artists start with an impetus. Artists start with an intention. This false equivalence is what I would call the AI apologist fallacy. They want you to believe that AI is a revolutionary new technology that changes the way art is made. And at the same exact time, they also want you to believe that AI uses the exact same process as human artists. And they hold both these contrasting arguments at the exact same time. They want you to believe both. They don't make sense. You can't believe both at the same time. Take a look at these. Human-made art. It takes so many different forms. It's so diverse. I love the diversity of human-made art. If you think artists have been spending centuries just imitating the other artists they see around them, how on earth did we arrive at the level of creative diversity flourishing in the world today? It's very clear that the way that AI art works and the way that human art works are completely different. There are so many other ingredients, such as lived experience, that go into a human artist's work that make it distinctly a different process from AI art. Anyway, that was just a distraction. They were trying to smokescreen us, right? They try to draw you into these existential, difficult to answer questions to make you forget about the data laundering, right? And I guess you could say I fell for it there. I went into too much detail to explain how human art is different from AI art. So let's bring it back on topic. If they at first tried to reduce the AI art thing, to make it simple, to make it like, oh, but AI art is just doing what humans do. Now they're trying to make it a more complex process. You just don't know enough about how deep learning works. If you knew more details about the wonders of deep learning, you would be converted. We know about the steps AI uses to train. You start with the data sets. Very essential component that you have those data sets. Then you've got the other processes. You've got the deep learning. You've got it stored in latent space. The technology is very smart. You have the use of Gaussian noise to generate images and to kind of randomize the results. And then you have a multiple choice output selection. Okay, we understand that. We are focused on the unlicensed theft occurring at this step here, the first step in the process. The foul play that's been done here does not require expertise to understand. The foul play only requires expertise if you're trying to excuse it. If you're trying to excuse the exploitation going on, then I guess you need to bamboozle people with these steps about deep learning, latent space, about noise generation. And isn't it funny that after all those complex steps, it still clearly has the ability to plagiarize? Now, I'm going to read you this excerpt from a disappointed Midjourney user. She writes, "It makes sense to say Midjourney can return copyrighted imagery if that's what the person asked for, but then my overall confidence in Midjourney is lowered. I have no way of knowing if my attempt to create an original image caused Midjourney to return a copyright image. Perhaps this only happens in very intentional prompts and not by accident, but that's unknown. I hope that would be the case, but I don't know. You see, there's this uncertainty with Midjourney users where all Midjourney users don't know if the image that's been created is a ripoff, if it exists somewhere else in the world just as a very slightly altered variation. Any image that's generated could be with the current technology. It's so irresponsible. You can't steal a style, bro. I've heard this one brought up a lot. Just one of those quick things to just kind of bamboozle you. Oh yeah, you can't steal a style. I guess they have a license to do whatever they want. So it's true, you can't steal a style. But AI stole artwork, AI stole images, AI stole IPs, AI stole portfolios. I'm sure I'm sounding like a broken record here. If you can impersonate an artist's style without stealing any of their images for your dataset, without illegally trawling the websites and using them for something that they did not consent to, if you didn't do that and you were able to impersonate their style, I guess you would win fair and square. But the fact is, these AIs stole from artists and the public without any permission to get those styles. And it hasn't been proven that they can reach those styles without those datasets, those stolen datasets. Without professional art in the datasets, image results would look more like this. This was trained on a dataset of about 30 million labeled images. Given the size of that dataset, I think it's safe to assume that most concept art and digital art was not contained within the dataset. This goes to show that the AI's use cases depend entirely upon the quality and quantity of the images in the datasets. Midjourney, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion would not be worth a fraction of their valuations if they followed copyright law. And yet they have never, to my knowledge, they have never given any credit or attributes or any acknowledgement to the professional concept artists who own those copyrights, who are driving the quality of the results in their AI image generators. Artists don't have a legal case against AI image generators. Wrong. The legal cases that are going to be brought up when they are finally taken to court. Breaching millions of copyrights at once. Knowingly misusing non-profit data sets for profit. We have a word for this now, it's data laundering. It's not cool. A breach of data privacy GDP regulations. This is according to EU law. And D, false advertising, maybe? The data sets are covered by fair use, right? This is what a lot of people have been saying. No. Let's read fair use doctrine, shall we? By looking at these four, we can clearly see, with beyond the shadow of a doubt, that 3 out of the 4 are just like hands down yes. The only reason I didn't highlight number 2 is because I personally have never understood number 2. It doesn't really make sense, the nature of copyrighted work. It's a weird one, but if we read number 1, 3, and 4. Number 1, purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is of a commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes. Is it for profit or non-profit? The results of this. It's for profit, guys. Number 3, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to copyrighted work as a whole. And number 3 is a hard one to pin down, but we can see from the fact that you can name artists in prompts that it's extremely weighted towards a specific group of artists. Most of these image generators can and are being used to target single artists or single images. Number 4 is effect of the use upon potential market for or value of copyrighted work. We're going to witness this, but the effect that is going to have on digital art in general and photography is just going to be catastrophic. Here's another important thing that I didn't include in the documentation here, but you don't need that one to be proved. You only need to prove that it is a threat. So for example, you don't need to wait until the digital art industry is in rubble to assume that the effect is going to be bad. And I have evidence for those 3 points. AI image generators are offering premium tiers, which they are profiting from, but also that the prompters are exploiting AI images for profit in merchandise, in commissions, and in building social media followings.
I'm going to show you how you can generate insane amounts of money with AI generated art. Guys, I cannot believe it.
In the middle here, we have this AI plugin for Blender where you can literally just from a top-down selection process, you can just decide by name, their real names. It will use their data sets to create a style that is basically the same. I've got to thank Carla Ortiz for this because she has curated so much evidence about this that was really helpful. So go and follow her on Twitter. You can see here that there's evidence to show that artists' jobs are being taken away by this, by AI. There are companies such as in this example, this company used an AI image generator to create their poster artwork. That's an artist's job right there. An artist's job gone because of AI image generators, because of stolen data sets. I imagine someone might misuse this. They could accuse me of breaking fair use because I'm using memes. No. You see, I can create memes because of fair use. Fair use is protecting us in using educational, like for criticism, for analysis. So fair use is great. I love fair use. But don't hide behind fair use when you steal the world's data, everyone's data, and don't ask them permission. When using a new technology that we're not sure about the consequences, it's especially important that you don't just take people's data without their consent. A lot of us are not on board with how AI is treating this data. A lot of us don't trust it. You especially need consent when it's a new technology. GDPR, I need to talk about as well. So this is in the EU. I'm no lawyer, but this is what is said on the official website. I'll try and link it in the description. The rights of individuals. The GDPR lists the rights of data subject, meaning the rights of individuals whose personal data is being processed. The need for an individual's clear consent to the processing of his or her personal data. Easier access for the data subject to his or her personal data. The rights to rectification, to erasure, and to be forgotten. Right now we don't have that feature. The right to object, including to the use of personal data for the purposes of profiling. Right now there is so much personal data inside Lion 5B. The right to data portability from one service provider to another. The regulation also lays down the obligation for controllers who are responsible for processing of the data to provide transparent and easily accessible information to individuals on the processing of their data. Midjourney is not doing that. It's a black box. Stable Diffusion, to my knowledge, is not doing that. DALL-E is not doing that. They are not being clear with how their data is being processed or what data is being stored or used. They are in breach of most of these GDPR regulations. Maybe the lawyers can squirm out of it somehow, I don't know. They have a lot of money now so they can afford lawyers, I suppose. But this data laundering was done in bad faith and it should not have the support of the public, much less the art community. I expect that the majority of the public will not support the misuse of their data and their inability to opt out. I want to talk a little bit more about Lion 5B for a moment because I've been dropping its name here and there. Lion 5B was funded by Stability AI. It was originally used for non-commercial purposes. That's how they had permission to trawl the internet and scrape all these images together. We know that it's been used for commercial purposes with these AI companies. These AI companies are valued at billions of dollars. It contains 5.6 billion images and text data. So it basically hoovered up a majority of the internet's images. Found within these datasets, it includes non-consensual porn, ISIS executions, child porn, medical record photos, racially discriminatory images. There is bad stuff inside these datasets. The creators have gone on record saying that they have not successfully filtered out all of these dark results from their dataset.
I think the illusion of believing that my model is perfectly safe just because I excluded all the harmful data from it is a little bit naive, because there could be gaps in the filtering or harmful actors could take them and fine-tune them easily. So this is a false safety. True safety only can come from really careful thinking and engineering.
On a more personal note, there are photos identifying probably everyone you know within this. Your mother, sister, son, daughter. If they exist, they're probably in this data set. Probably a profile picture and probably their name as well, because it's text and image, the real names of real people inside this data set. It's a huge breach of privacy. It's a huge breach of consent. So now that I've done the debunking, I have a question for AI apologists and for the AI developers. AI image generators could have made developments ethically, so why didn't they? They could have trained only using public domain images. They could have used datasets vetted by a neutral third party. They could have made artists opt in to the dataset. So artists would have to give their consent or else they wouldn't be included. And they could have offered royalty deals to these artists who opted in. Simple stuff. But they decided to take the unethical, exploitative way. You funded a legal loophole in Germany to train your AI on billions of images littered with copyright. You decided to vilify and gaslight the artists you're stealing from. You just released this dangerous technology to the public, and you rolled out subscriptions as soon as possible to cash in on this. So the question actually is quite an easy one to answer. It's all about money and valuations, guys. Stability AI, you can see that it gets a $1 billion valuation, the 18th of October 2022.
There's a good business model. We've negotiated massive deals so we can be profitable at the door versus most money-losing big corporations.
Don't be too smug about your lean business model, Emad. I know why your business model is so profitable. It's because you don't pay out royalties to the artists you screwed over. The AI arms race has begun, and there's this winner takes all rush to get something out. They all did this very irresponsibly because they wanted to get that money. It's like a gold rush. For many years, really, they've had this shallow doctrine of disruption equals good in all situations. It's like, it doesn't matter who you screw over. It doesn't matter who loses out from this. It doesn't matter whose lives you're damaging. It's disruption. We're going after disruption because that's where the most profit is. Also, digital art in particular was calculated as being less of a legal threat than the music industry. Yes, they preyed on the art industry because they saw it as being weak in terms of the legal backbone of artists. And there's this attitude of, if we move fast enough, maybe people will just go with it and forget about it.
Image, I think, is the killer app because when you look at this, it's a wonder for people that they can suddenly create rather than consume. And that's something that's across the board. You know, the comparators are Snapchat or TikTok, where you can create. There's Pokemon Go, you know, gacha games and these kinds of things.
Say art. Could you please just say that art exists and that you didn't invent creativity with this? I get that you're from a gaming background, but you must know about the art industry because every single noteworthy image that's been generated with Stable Diffusion has done so with an artist name in their prompt. With AI, anything is possible, except for common decency, apparently. So this is David Holt's interview in a Forbes article. Here is one of the questions. Did you seek consent from living artists or work still under copyright? To which David Holtz replies, no. There's no way to find a picture on the internet and then automatically trace it to an owner and then have any way of doing anything to authenticate it. These AI geniuses supposedly couldn't find an easy way to automate consent. What a shame! Oh, it was difficult. It was tricky. The consent thing is difficult from a developer's standpoint. So we found a solution though. Our solution was that we just took everyone's images without their consent. We just decided to backstab them all, basically. They could have taken their time to build a verification system. They could have built an image portal for volunteers to opt in and to upload their images to. They could have licensed image archives the conventional way. They could have just not broken copyright law for millions of people. A single copyright violation is a tragedy. 1 million copyright violations is a statistic. Okay, maybe I went a bit too far on that one. I don't know. I can't read the room here. I'm just on my own in my office. Okay, we got a meme finally. I was beginning to despair a bit too much. It's been nothing but lies, deceit, and question dodging from these CEOs. Very slimy, slippery kind of question answering. Can artists opt out from being included in data training model? He says, we're looking into that. The challenge now is finding out what the rules are and how to figure out if a person is really the artist of a particular work or just putting their name on it. We haven't encountered anyone who wants their name taken out of the data set that we could actually find in the data set. Lies. That is a lie right there. Can artists opt out of being named in prompts? He says, not right now. We're looking at that. Again, we have to find a way to authenticate those requests, which can get complicated. Okay, so why didn't you try and solve this before you launched? You're looking into it? This is a product that you launched already. What an irresponsible thing to do. All of the big players, they give commercial rights to what prompters make. They take from rights holders and they sell them to prompters. These are the subscription models. If you think they aren't profitable, if you think they're just giving it away, because in all of these talks they do, they always frame it as like them giving. They are giving to people. It's not, it's a SaaS business, dude. It's subscription as a service. Midjourney has a subscription membership costs. DALL-E has a sort of credits model. Stable Diffusion has a credits model. They are making bank from this, make no mistake. One more little bit from the Forbes article, because it is such a juicy Forbes article. This journalist, I need to bring his name up because he asked good questions. The output from your product is imagery, which has a commercial value in professional context, in addition to all of those other properties. And this is very disruptive of that economy. David Holtz gives the weakest, flimsiest, slimy answer I can think of. He says, I think it's like we're making a boat and somebody can race with the boat, but it doesn't mean that the boat's about racing. If you use a boat to race, then maybe, yeah, sure. In that moment it is. Okay, so it's the guns don't kill people argument. Now that he's made and developed this software and just done it in a very irresponsible way, now he's distancing himself from the tool that he's made and saying, well, it's a tool, it can be used for lots of different things. He's basically saying we haven't made the software to be used by professionals and for companies and for corporate use. But if you do happen to be a corporation, then we're going to charge you for it and negotiate with us to how much it will cost to license that image. Good news, finally. Basically, the US Copyright Office refused copyrights from AI generated images. In other words, if you generate an image with one of these AI image generators, you do not own the copyright. The US Copyright Office will not recognize that as a copyright. So that's a good thing. So it essentially blocked the ability for them to realistically give the rights away to these things.
What is your sort of opinion if someone comes to you and says, your model produces horrible output, here I can show you?
I would say, of course, humanity is horrible and they use technology in horrible ways and good ways as well. But at the same time, like I said, I think that this is positive technology for humanity and it should diffuse, because then the pace of innovation to make it beneficial as well as to combat negative uses is far greater.
Oh, good. I was beginning to worry there. Okay, it's all right, guys. It's no problem. Emma just said that our suffering will be worth it in the end. And I guess this means he doesn't need to do anything to fix the massive gaping problems in his AI model. So if you're the victim of revenge porn, or you're the victim of constant plagiarism, false impersonations, your livelihood taken away from you, it's okay, because somewhere in the world, a kid is spamming prompts to make 100 anime waifu iterations per day, and Emma decided for you that makes it all worthwhile.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Yeah, cheers for involving the community, Ahmad. AI is in the hands of some very irresponsible people. I hope you can see that by now. These developers need to be restrained by democratic processes and held accountable when they cause damage. And they need to slow down. People are getting hurt by this and they are not paying any attention. They will say that they are all about empowering creatives. They will say that they want to bring about a utopia by AI. If you're an artist, they don't care about you. They are trying to pretend like you don't exist. They are trying to minimize the impact of your words and maximize the use of your images that you worked for years to create.
Another thing as well, like academia, companies, all these things. I think too many people in our community are unhappy. And obviously there's a lot of neuroatypical people within our community, right? I'm neuroatypical myself, you know? I want to see how we can have a happier community that supports each other.
That would imply that it goes both ways and that you support artists. Emad, how about we support each other in this way? You leave artist websites out of your datasets and we leave you alone. Yeah, that sounds like a great community to me. No parasitic relationship, just two distinctly separate communities. Double standards. This is by Stability AI. This is Dance Diffusion. Dance Diffusion is a music AI. In the music industry, they are respecting the copyrights. This is the same company, Stability AI, that's behind an image generator, right? So how are they treating it differently for the music industry? Let's read this. Dance Diffusion is also built on datasets composed entirely of copyright-free and voluntary provided music and audio samples. Because Dance Diffusion models are prone to memorization and overfitting, releasing a model trained on copyright data could potentially result in legal issues. In honoring the intellectual property of artists while also complying to the best of their ability with the often strict copyright standards of the music industry, keeping any kind of copyrighted material out of training data was a must. So why are they being so reasonable when it comes to respecting the rights of the music industry, the copyrights of the music industry? Well, it's because the music industry has teeth. If you replace the words music and audio samples and the music industry with the word art, that's essentially what we want. We want that kind of behavior. So I'm going to outline the simple demands. These are the demands that I think that we as artists should be making, and we should not stop until these demands are met. First of all, remove the ability to name artists in prompts. This feature exploits a massive breach of personal data rights under EU law. It enables and encourages prompters to falsely impersonate artists. It enables prompters to tap directly into specified artists' portfolio and brands for profitable exploitation. They should remove this feature immediately. Swiftly introduce a feature to manually search and remove images from Lion. And also, I'm aware that there are other data sets, so not just Lion, but any data set used in AI. Now, this would only affect future releases due to how the AI is trained, unfortunately. So for current models, you can't really backtrack in terms of what it's been trained on. But this would affect future releases, which most of the public are likely to adopt. It would allow millions of unhappy artists, performers, and public figures a way out from this blatant exploitation. We want an escape. It would force these black box AI companies to be transparent with the public about how their data is being used. With billions of dollars in venture capital funding, the datasets already logged, and money pouring in through subscription fees, this feature is well within your budget limitations. I'm talking to the big players in AI. I'm talking about Stability AI, Midjourney, DALL-E. All future datasets should be opt-in. You would have to knowingly ask for your images to be used in their datasets. That's basically what I mean by opt-in. This would respect the dignity of deceased artists and their families. It would prevent the uninformed coercion of older, less tech-informed artists and citizens. And it would stay true to the spirit of data privacy law. To the big players in the AI space, stop. Stop finding new industries to exploit and start remaking your current apps with these features, options, and limitations in place, please. A public apology would also be nice, but it's not expected, I suppose.
Because it's above freezing, which is good, because that means I can paint without using any antifreeze in my water medium. but I have a view along the stream that I like. So the next most important and obvious thing we want to do to gain more control over our creations is find artists to use in our prompt. Just scroll through, look what catches your eye.
Okay, I've been talking a little bit about AI bros, prompters, and AI apologists. I want to go into a theory of the origin story of the AI bro, the AI artist, whatever you want to call them. I mean, here are two little screenshots I've found on Twitter. One of them who's just ragging on the artist that he's exploiting, and the other one asking, can I train a model based on my favorite artist's work and start taking commissions? Basically just rubbing two brain cells together to just connect the dots here. You can see the idea forming in his tiny little primal mind. I mean, to the guy's credit, at least he asked permission, I guess. Here's a theory for you. In 2020 and moving into 2021, mid 2021, you had the pump boys. These bros who were pumping meme coins, and it was the greater fool theory at play. Altcoins, meme coins that had no inherent value. And I remember on Discord in 2020 and 2021, I was getting at least 2 DMs per day from random people. And these bots were sending me an invite to a pump group where they would pump these altcoins. And then in 2021, you see the rise of the NFT bros. Just like with crypto, the technology itself is very interesting, and I'm sure it will have future applications. But you had this wave of bros, that's the only way I can put it. Because it was such a new technology, they were using NFTs to basically try to make a quick profit while doing as little work as possible. And then in 2022, you have the AI prompters. I think they've kind of moved on because my inbox in Discord has not had any NFT pump group requests or meme coin requests for a long time now. I think it's because they've all moved on to AI prompting. That's their new hustle. Unfortunately, they are also joined by fledgling artists who haven't really got many formed opinions about art, and also they are joined by, unfortunately, just the uninformed public who is not aware of the moral and ethical issues surrounding AI art because it's being played down in many of these circles. Key characteristics of the AI bros, though, as a core group of people, my observations are they want a quick profit from minimal effort, are willing to exploit others in the process, and they use new technology before legislation catches up.
That looks insane. So for the next 30 days, I'm gonna try to sell AI art and see how much money I can make with my masterpiece. Let's try to generate a gangster baby oil painting. That baby is looking fresh.
Even master artists are mostly unknown to the mainstream public, and this makes it easy to impress people with slightly mutated art from unfamiliar masters. Just add the false marketing about the AI forming original art and hey, you have a license to steal. Prompters use information disparity to build social media followings, sell merchandise, and take on commissions with unlicensed, unethical images propped up by the art industry.
There are so many ways that I can use DALL-E to create artwork that I would have previously had to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on to hire an artist to create for me. I'm excited for me.
The prompter sees art as worthless pixels on a screen. Pixels which can be taken and exploited. They're kind of like pixel merchants. The prompter refuses to acknowledge the vast time, money, and effort that went into making these original images that have been stolen. And this naivety can partly be blamed, I believe, on social media. The major social media networks are literally changing the name of artwork, photography, music, and film to content, which in my opinion is just such a degrading word. It's kind of like a trough of feed. More than ever, people are dissociating art from the hardworking, risk-taking people who made it. An artist makes art. What makes content? I suppose anything can make content, right? You have content creators, yes, but content kind of opens up the floor to allow this kind of endless computer-generated feed force-feeding you mush over and over again of things that aren't meaningful. Art used to be a lot more valued. So anyway, getting back to the AI bros, I quite liked this meme that I found. The character of the AI bro and the AI prompter, they didn't have the patience to learn the software. But then when Stability AI comes around, they change their tune completely and they say like, I've always been a genius, adapts to AI or become obsolete Luddites, watch out as your superior takes your jobs. Do you really think that trained artists couldn't beat you at prompting if they didn't have the backbone that they have? Like, if they didn't have the moral fiber that they have to not use prompters, you don't think that artists could wipe the floor with you at prompting? Because this is what we're trained at. We are trained to be creative. We spend our lives studying art. Anyway, it's just kind of a funny meme. I thought this was very accurate. At first I thought I would portray them like an evolving ape. You know, they're evolving from meme coins to NFTs to AI art, but there's no evolution involved. They're actually more like locusts, I would say. They have a very short attention span, and that's why they've only arrived in the art scene when it became reduced to a quick multiple choice selection process, a bit like what you have at a character selection screen on a game.
I'm at my friend Daniel's place right now, and he has an insane gaming PC with an NVIDIA GPU. Let's generate some AI art. Bananas in space, baby. We got Elon Musk in there too. Banana spaceship?
Just like Locust, the majority will leave as soon as there's a new AAA game that comes out, or there is a bigger opportunity to exploit some poor souls for easy money somewhere else. Are you a prompter watching this? This is the impression you are making on the artist community. Stop prompting until we have a fair system established.
Plus, if you sign up to one of their memberships, then you can legally sell the artwork that you create. So as you can see, they have 3 different plans.
If you're paying these image generators, you are a very big part of the problem. We're not saying that the image generators and developers aren't to blame. They are absolutely to blame, but you are enabling them. You are giving the product value when you decide to turn your back on the moral and ethical issues with AI generated images.
So here is something that you can do that is completely legal, but whether it's ethical is another question.
Is he about to acknowledge that AI art is insanely unethical for the artists that are forced into being in the datasets?
You can copy the prompt.
Oh, never mind, I guess.
Make it rain!
I want to bring this to a specific case study that I mentioned earlier. Sam Does Arts. This guy has been in the firing line of prompters, of AI bros. I haven't followed Sam Does Arts that closely, but I have been aware of him for a number of years. I've seen his art and his YouTube videos. He's a very popular artist. His artwork is very aesthetic. He specializes, I suppose, in painting females. Now, they've set up this subreddit. I'll just show you. I was appalled at what I saw in this subreddit, which was kind of focused on Sam Does Arts. They were working to get as close to Sam's art style as possible. And they were openly using Sam's name and copyrighted brand for this. Like, that's part of the appeal, is like, you can get the Sam Does Arts look to the images that this generates. Now people are using Sam's specific data set, a portfolio he built over many years, as a kind of marionette doll to serve their every whim. So I put together this meme here. By the way, all the memes will be available in the description below. You can download them and spread them. We need to spread the word about these problems, okay? Like, I think memes are quite an effective way to get the word out about what's going on in these spaces. These were the images that were showcased by the developer, showing what you can do with this new prompter that specifically targets Sam Does Arts. So he starts off with bunnies, and then I feel like the developer was almost hinting at what this could be used for. And you have generated pictures of military uniform and things. Yeah, it just made me think about how this is being used kind of as a marionette doll to serve other people's whims. But the problem is that this is getting mistaken for Sam Does Arts. His brand is being tarnished by this. It's being watered down, and his livelihood is being taken away from him by his own stolen art. How's he going to get commissions? If anyone can create any image in Sam Does Arts style because of his stolen images, by the way, because of his stolen data set, how can he take on commissions from now on if that's something he wants to do for money? You know, he's had that option, that livelihood taken away from him. How could he run merch when someone can just prompt?
I'm going to show you how you can generate insane amounts of money with AI generated art. Guys, I cannot believe it.
Here we have, like on this subreddit, we have this battle of the Sams. Which Sam Does Arts model does it best? They are literally competing on how close they can get to imitating Sam's style and doing these false impersonations. This is kind of like a deep fake of an artist's brand. Look, if you haven't been an artist, I will tell you, your brand is everything as an artist. Everything hinges on your brand. If your brand is sullied by something like this, it causes a lot of damage to your livelihood. Now, this is the most infuriating part, so I will be reading this out. I'm going to read it out because I want you to get a feel for how condescending these AI bros are to the artist that they are ripping off. Hey Sam, hope you're doing well this holiday season. To be honest, we had no idea who you were until a minor drama outbreak occurred on r/Stable Diffusion regarding a lone hobbyist, taking some time to create an homage to your art style. Oh right, it's an homage, is it? So that anyone with Stable Diffusion could attempt to recreate your work, perhaps even improve it. What the hell, like this guy is so... Ugh. As you may or may not be aware, you probably are aware, your reaction to calling out this individual and his work created a Streisand effect, resulting in a slew of aspiring AI artists taking up the task of creating models in your art style. Sam Does Arts is now not only one of the most copied models, but also the most downloaded. In the event that you're actually some kind of reverse psychology savant and wanted this to happen to better spread your style and marketing, then bravo, fantastic job. If not, well, unfortunate. To celebrate the work of these fine creators, fine creators, what the hell? You really think they're creators? To celebrate the work of these fine creators, we're hosting a Battle of the Sams, where members of r/Stable Diffusion can vote on which of your models did it best. First prize will be an 8x10 of any of your prints from your print shop, since we actually believe in supporting artists. I've linked a couple of entries for your famous scrutiny. If none of these are up to snuff, we'd love to work with you to create an official Sam Does Arts model. Could be a fun project. All the best, Civitai. I don't know who Civitai is. The host of this forum sends a mocking email to Sam, basically saying, we are taking your style and there's nothing you can do about it. And also trying to make the case in some way that they believe in supporting artists. Basically saying that like the publicity that this has gotten for Sam's name is making up for any of the harm that they're doing. I don't know about you, but this kind of email just makes me so mad. Like, artists like Sam need to be protected. Sam basically asked them to stop this. Literally, the guy who their entire model is based on, and they are taunting him, linking to him all of these entries of people that are exploiting his artwork. And it doesn't stop there. The Redditor who created the latest version 4 model of Sam Does Arts impersonator was complaining about underrepresentation in Sam's portfolio and taking matters into his own hands to fix the problem. So he was complaining about this character who shows up a lot in Sam's portfolio, this female with white hair, and saying that the community has more varied interests, and fixing this problem in Sam's portfolio, which is so condescending. I mean, I know, guys, we're not talking about legal stuff anymore. We're just talking about disrespect. The disrespect and entitlement that these prompters have towards an artist like Sam is overwhelming. This character, this girl, we don't know who she is, right? But this could be Sam's representation of his real life girlfriend or a significant other for all we know. Whoever she is important to Sam. Sam has painted her and drawn her many times. So this is an important character to Sam. And this AI could be used to do things like to twist her into indecent and undignified poses, which the more I think about it, the more just like disgusted I am about this community that is taking all of these liberties that they never should have had in the first place. They never had the right to do this to an artist. They should not have the right to do this. It's amazing how Sandra Halper can be 100% reliant on Sam's art style and yet have such disrespect for him at the same time. This is just one clear example of artist portfolios and brands being specifically targeted for plagiarism and misuse, but there are more happening as we speak. I mean, in the comments of this model, one comment said, "Yo, can we get a Wallop, please? That guy is a real bona fide art god." So they're going to go after Wallop soon as well, because he also makes images of pretty women. So it's just going to continue. They're just going to go around to their favorite artists and they're going to export these models and just completely sully their brand. They literally attach the artist's name to these artworks and to this generator. It's absolutely disgraceful. These can be made to do very dark things to an artist. I can only imagine what it feels like for Sam to witness this happening. He must be distraught at this. I know I would be. Luckily, they're not really using it to endorse a war or to... Maybe they are making porn, I don't know. But I guess it's lucky that most of these AI bros don't have very high ambitions. This is a meme that I just took off of the same subreddit just to show you that they don't really have very high ambitions. But look, behind the data that has been stolen, this massive data heist that's mostly affecting right now comic artists and illustrators, concept artists, digital artists, modelers and photographers as well. Behind all of this data and these data sets are real people being exploited. Go ahead, look at their faces. These are real people and they have names. Go ahead and look at their names. They are the ones being exploited. And it's not just pixels on a screen. It's hard work. It's thousands of hours of hard concentration, thousands of dollars in equipment and student debt. They are professionals. They pay rent with their art. Some of them have kids. They have invested in their artwork and their brand so that they can pay off these debts, so that they can provide for their families. They're some of the hardest working people I know. They bring so much joy and life into the world at great cost to them. You think it's fun to make hundreds of high quality concept art renders. Why don't you try it? It's hard work. It takes dedication. It takes grit. It's at great cost to them. And I can't stand to see their work being forced into a meat grinder with no way out. They have no consent in this. They do not give their consent, and someone needs to stand up for them. We need to speak out for them. We need to support them. If people say I'm biased, heck yeah, I'm biased. Artists did nothing wrong in this. Artists didn't start this mess. Artists don't deserve this, and they should protest. I won't be a Stan Prokopenko sitting comfortably in the middle saying, well, both sides make good points. Like it's two warring tribes with equal claim to some land. That's not honest. We respectfully but firmly reject the falsehoods made by these AI advocates. We don't want to be buddies with people who degrade our work. We want accountability for the damage they have caused and a behavioral shift on the side of the AI developers to caution and responsibility. Holding social media accountable. Social media sites are a key player in this. I have made 3 different groups here. You've got the bad social media sites who are not coming out in support of artists. You have the good social media points who have been decisive on their treatment of artists and taking a side and ruling against non-consensual data scraping on their websites. In the bad section right now you have Meta, Google and ArtStation. This isn't an exhaustive list. There are others that I don't know about and they're subject to change. Like they could change their policy. On the good side you have Newgrounds. I love Newgrounds, of course. Kickstarter, 3D Total, Arts.io, PH, so yeah, Orange YouTube. And the ones I don't know are Instagram and Pinterest. I'll get into these a little bit in more depth. Newgrounds, Kickstarter, 3D Total, Arts.io. The ones on the good list have all written it into their policy. You're officially not allowed to data scrape from these websites. And also they have some kind of control on accepting AI projects or accepting AI artwork. With Kickstarter, it's not a social media site, it's a crowdfunding platform, but they have been taking down irresponsible AI projects from being funded. They've taken them down off their platform. 3D Total has been fantastic in its support of the crowdfunding that I talked about in the earlier part of the video. The ones that I don't know about are Instagram. Don't really know where they stand on it. I know they're owned by Meta, but I'm not sure. And Pinterest, I don't know their official policy, but I do know that a lot of their images are scraped off of Pinterest. And Pinterest has sort of like helped these data scrapers because Pinterest is a website that uses AI to organize and categorize and arrange images. But let's talk about ArtStation, because this is the least popular artist website in the world right now, I would say. And that's because it betrayed its user base. It sold us out, basically, making decisions that are against its entire user base and will ultimately lead to the downfall of this portfolio site. Choosing to become an unlimited feed of AI-generated art by accepting AI-generated art in, and drowning out the portfolios of real artists with endless AI variations. This will make it extremely difficult for recruitment, which is what the website was about in the first place. It was about real artists connecting with other real artists, looking at portfolios and hiring people. Instead, it's selling out all of its human users to feed the meat grinder. And they basically said that they're not banning any AI-generated artwork from being posted there. And also by default, they are not ruling out the AI image scraping, which I think is disgraceful. Here's evidence of that. Why are all projects not tagged with no AI by default? Does that mean if I don't use the tag, I am allowing it? And their response is, we believe artists should be free to decide how their art is used. And simultaneously, we don't want to become gatekeepers with site terms that stifle AI research and commercialization when it respects artists' choices and copyright law. AI research is not respecting artists' choices and copyright law. So why are you respecting them? You're basically echoing the gaslighting that's going on against artists when you say that artists are stifling AI research. No, we want control over our own images. The images that we own the copyright to, we want control over them. Every AI-generated image is breaking the website rules, and yet they ignore this because in their policy they say when you post stuff to ArtStation, make sure that you own it or that you have permission to post it. When you create an AI image, you neither own it or have permission to post it because it's using AIs that were trained on data sets that you don't have permission to use. The AI does not have permission to use. So by their own logic, every single AI-generated image on ArtStation is breaking their own terms of service, their own policy. It leads to the question, why are they doing this? Are they being paid off? Because that's the only explanation I can come up with. They say they're not getting paid by any AI art companies, but my guess is yes. I would guess that they are being paid somewhere. There is some corruption involved in ArtStation. There's no other explanation for it. Why would they betray their entire user base? And now ArtStation are trying to silence their users instead of updating policy. So this is before and after the silencing. The vast majority of artists are making images in protest of the misuse of the platform and of their images which they own. And then afterwards, you can see that they've just systematically gone along and just search and destroy, tried to find every single protest image and delete it. They missed one there in the middle. Right there, they missed it. But this is not because of a fall off in interest. And just in case you were wondering, like, if artists are now like simmering down and the dust has settled and now artists are just getting along with things. No, artists are mad as hell and we are not going to let this slide. We are not going to drop the subject. DeviantArt is doing what ArtStation should. Okay, here's an update from DeviantArt. It said, we heard the community feedback and now all deviations are automatically labeled as not authorized for use in AI datasets. You don't understand how important that is. It's so important that by default, they are labeled as not authorized for AI use. because that means that people who are recently deceased, people who are not tech savvy, who don't go onto the internet very much, they might just post their images and then go away for 6 months on an art retreat somewhere. You shouldn't have to expect that your users are going to be logging on every day to check what's the latest situation. A massive majority of users are not going to be informed enough to make those updates. By default, they should not be authorized. But there is another thing. So I've talked about my naughty list and my nice list. The websites that are doing good things, they're siding with human artists. But there is the problem of how are these data sets being formed? Which sites are they taking advantage of? How do they suck your artwork into the data set? Well, it's actually very simple from what we can see. From my suspicion and the suspicion of others, it's very simple. They actually just use a right-click save as option. There are certain websites that actually disable this option. So the websites that allow this, where you can just go onto the feed and just right-click save as, ArtStation, DeviantArt, Pinterest, WordPress. This makes it very easy for the web crawlers to hoover up these images. The websites that make it difficult are websites like 500px. Now I can demonstrate this right now for you. I have 500px up here. So this is a photography website. It's got very high standard professional grade photography. If I click into one of those images here and I try and right click save as, look at what comes up. It just tells me who the photograph is by. Now, of course, it can't completely prevent against screenshots, but it's a bit more difficult. It just adds a layer of difficulty in there for these web crawlers. So my recommendation to website owners, people like Tom Fulp, who's running Newgrounds, is I strongly recommend that you look into this technology. With Instagram as well, you would have to screenshot something to take it. It's not as easy as a right-click save as. ArtStation, DeviantArt, Pinterest, WordPress, and I would also add Newgrounds onto that. If we look at Newgrounds here, like here's the featured art, right? If I right-click save as in that, it's only going to save the thumbnail, which is this tiny little square. You'd have to click onto it to actually get the artwork up. So that's quite good, but it's not as ideal as Instagram, and where you actually would have to screenshot it. And these are all animations actually, but you can't just right click save as, you would save the web page. Based on what we found by looking inside the Lion 5B database, you can search for an artist like James Gurney or Craig Mullins. You can just search them in and you can see that Pinterest, don't know what that one is, Bing. A lot of them, it's Pinterest and ArtStation are really big culprits. One of the reasons for that is because it's easy to scrape images from there, because it's just as simple as moving your way along the grid, right click save as, just saving as you go. It's just a theory right now. I'm not actually sure how these web crawlers work. So some people are saying like they're just really eager to put this whole thing in the past. They're saying like these bad things have already happened. They've already scraped the internet for images, for all the images. They've already done this. They've already done that. Why are you talking about them? And it's because it sets a precedent as one thing, but also because the narrative surrounding these AI image generators as being irreversible is one propagated by the AI companies themselves and AI apologists. They want you to think that the genie is out of the bottle and it can't be put back in, because they just want us to move on to the next topic while they continue to profit off of another industry's hard work. If these reckless and irresponsible heists go unscrutinized, they will keep happening. And believe me, things can get worse. Things can get worse than the way they already are. Also, justice. Just because someone, if someone robbed your house, you don't say, well, it's in the past, they should just be allowed to keep on burgling houses in the neighborhood. No, you want them to come to justice. You want them to answer for their crimes. This has been part 5 of a 6-part series. Thank you to these people for helping me with information and encouragement. And remember, you can help in a really big way to bring this case to the highest authorities in the world. The link to the crowdfunders is in the description of this video. I mean, some animators seem to feel safe where they are. They say they will never make the crossover into animation, to which I say they already are. Meta has just introduced Make a Video, and they're not doing this by innovating. They're doing it by sucking up millions of videos and letting the deep learning do what it does. It's not particularly innovative. I won't lie, the results they have with this new beta are pretty bad, but it will get better. Meta created Make a Video by scraping the entire Shutterstock archive, watermarks and all, over 10 million proprietary video clips with no consent or fees. And they are following OpenAI's terrible example with this. They've almost kind of got permission to do this kind of bad behavior because of OpenAI. So I don't think artists should feel safe. I think artists need to start engaging in this problem that is sweeping the internet, because it's going to invade all areas of creativity. The situation is as bad as I'm making it sound. We cannot give up though, because as bad as it is, it can get a lot worse from here if we don't hit the brakes on this train. The situation is hopeless. No, this has just started. Remember, I linked to you these crowdfunders. They are on their way to being funded, but they need your help. They need your contribution. So anything you can afford, you know, even if it's a $5 donation or something really small, it all adds up. And then when you're looking back 50 years from now, you can say that you helped to solve this. You helped to save art. Next steps. So we need to make AI art a taboo. Do not use AI image generators. I know it can be tempting for some of you because it's curiosity, but don't use them. Support real artists. If you know that an artist that you follow has a Patreon page, give them a little something, you know, help them, because they are going through hard times right now because of this. Their own artwork is being used against them. Give them funding on Patreon, fund their Kickstarters, give them a tip if they have some kind of virtual tip jar, share their work, support fundraisers, class action lawsuits and protests, and above all, keep making art. You cannot let this stop you, guys. And this brings me on to hope. Do I have any? Well, my gut feeling is that this new wave of software is not all it's cracked up to be. I expect an S-curve in innovation as the novelty of this software wears off. I mean, what you're seeing right now is like a really, like some of the images being shared would not actually be popular images unless the whole meta-narrative of AI art was there to kind of hold them up. It's a bit like the child drawing thing. If a child holds up an artwork and says, I drew this, and it's like a half-decent drawing, like everyone applauds, everyone loves it. But if an adult holds up the same drawing, no one notices. And it's the same thing with AI. It's like, wow, that's especially good considering that it was made by an AI. This is an S-curve, and this is actually something we see a lot in the technology space. The start of this curve is an exponential curve, and it looks like it's never going to stop. Like when you hit the middle here, you just think it's going to go through the roof. You can tell the developers of these software like just think that the sky's the limit. They think it's never going to stop. They're never going to face any tech hurdles. While it's true that like this can skyrocket for a long time, the interest and buzz runs out eventually. People start to realize that like what they're seeing is just kind of fake. It's not real. It's not wholesome. Right now they're really floored by the beauty of some of these images. What they're really stunned by is actually just a kind of distorted reflection of human art that they haven't seen before. You have a lot of different technologies that do adhere to this kind of curve, this kind of taper off in interest. Smartphones, they stopped innovating smartphones years ago. Social media platforms, they're all getting to be the same now. They're not actually branching out in the way that you would hope. NFTs, that thing's dying, man. It's dead. You can think of other fads and fashion trends as well, which they have their time and then they taper out because there's nothing of substance there, guys. The thing is, we can all see that there's very little substance in these prompted images. And there is so much substance in human-made art. Human-made art will outlast this trend. That's my conviction anyway. Digital art will be permanently scarred from this new tech though. The open source release made sure of that. I don't want to leave you satisfied with a happy ending because the struggle is not over. We must take action. There's a lot we need to do to save our creative industries. It started with digital art, but it won't end with digital art. Things can get a lot worse from here if we all stay passive. Luckily, we have the power to affect what happens in the future. Look, if we raise hell right now, we hold protests, we do boycotts, we file class action lawsuits and we fund those class action lawsuits, if we keep educating people and keep hosting discussions around this, then the AI theft and abuse will be slowed down and maybe even stopped, right? And maybe even reversed back. They say it's not possible to reverse this stuff because it's trained, but I can see ways that they could, at least for the majority of people. Now there will always be these open source AIs that will be pushed underground as kind of like a bit like pirated movies. But the mainstream will adopt a more responsible and ethical AI if that is what the courts rule. The arrows are pointing in the direction of the destruction of the art industry and the abortion of great future art. There's a lot of human artwork that is yet to be made. It's going to come out in 5, 10 years, 20 years from now. And I believe that we are responsible right now for allowing that art to have a chance. And the way we do that is by raising hell. We do not give up. We do not become apathetic. We do not become nihilists. We have to hope. We have to hope. And throughout all of this, don't ever stop expressing yourself. People who think I'll never be as good as what AI can produce, you always had a superior in art. There was always someone better than you. When you stepped into this, you weren't the best, and you probably knew realistically that you were never going to be the best. There's always a bigger fish, and you didn't let that stop you before. And nothing has changed in that regard. There's still artists, human and AI, that are producing artwork that's better than you. There will continue to be exciting opportunities for artists, just like you. You don't have to be the best at something to contribute to the medium. You don't have to be top dog to have a voice and to get a lot out of the art experience, the creative experience. We will keep facing struggles, but we will face them together. You've got me. I am here. I'm not going away. I'm not going anywhere. I'm keeping on. Business as usual. Nothing's changing for me. My plans are the same. Hosting the Animator Guild Short Film Contest coming up this year changes nothing. Many more events after that I've got planned as well. I have a lot of plans in the works. Business as usual, guys. We keep creating. We keep doing our thing. We're not letting something like this stop us. And I also want to bring you to this concept that I've been toying with, the way of the artist. I think of real artists, we can ask ourselves, what would Master Kim want? He died recently, God rest his soul. I think he would tell us to keep drawing and to enjoy the process. He wouldn't want us to stop. He wouldn't want any of us, whether we're on day 1 or day 1 million of our art journeys, he wouldn't want any of us to quit because of some kind of external circumstance. Or Bob Ross, I can only guess at what Bob Ross would say, but I think he would just remind us that we're each very special, and he would encourage us to stay calm and experience the joy and adventure of painting. When I thought of that, I wrote this small thing and see what you think. Image making is merely the surface of what an artist does. Art is a way of life. It's a method of observation and of conversation. We document what is happening in a way that words cannot. We make art to deepen our understanding of all things. We keep ourselves open to what we are feeling and put those emotions into our images. Creative work presents challenges, and facing those challenges makes us grow stronger. I do not envy those who have hacked their way to a result. They are missing out on so much joy. Now that we're at the end of the video, I want to remind you about the different places you can go to help the cause, to take these legal issues to the highest authorities in the world, which is exactly what we need to defend artists' rights right now. This is what's needed of us. The situation requires each of us to step up and play our part and do our bit to protect our medium and all of the hard-working individuals that we benefit from in our medium. They need our help now, and we are privileged because we can do something about it. New Discord group as well. I am planning on setting up a new Discord group. We need volunteers, and we are also looking for artists who have been exploited, and we are going to try and help as many artists as possible. We need to come together as a community, guys. I can't do this all on my own. I need your help. But as a community, we are powerful and strong when we come together. So the link to that will be in the description, where we tackle this problem. I'm talking about inventive solutions. We need to be more creative than the prompters here, guys, because we're artists. Creativity is what we do. That's the end of the video. I hope this gave you food for thought. I'm gonna go back to making my animation now. Goodbye.